I can.
All right, perfect. Cool. All right, so this is a tool called Pipedrive, and it's what they call a CRM tool, customer resource management, and it's really a tool for tracking pipeline and being able to project a pipeline. Do you have any experience with any CRMs in the past?
No, just the, what is it, Trello that
Trello,
they're
okay.
using for the website design, but I don't think it really tracks like this.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, this is specifically geared for sales folks, and I've used it in a few previous companies of mine, and then I've used a bunch of different tools. The main tool out in the market today for CRMs is called Salesforce. You probably have heard that company,
Yeah.
yeah, seen their signs and stuff. So they have a much more complicated tool. This is a really simple tool, which I like because you know it you can get lost in the minutia, and this really just allows you to track a lot of the main activities that you need to be responsible for as a salesperson. So I'll get into it here. So this is the essence of it right here, is this view. And so what we need to do as a sales team is come up with what we call is our sales cycle. So in any organization, they have some sort of standard process that they follow where there's different steps in actually closing a deal. And so this is just the standard general one. I actually don't know what our specific sales process is, if we have even a clearly defined one in terms of steps.
Uh-huh.
But this is what we have, and you can customize each one of these fields. So obviously, everything kind of starts here, right? If a lead's generated somehow in terms of marketing, or we send out a blast and someone says I'm interested, or they come to our website and they want to buy something. You can automate a lot of this at the start, so leads come in automatically, or you can come in here and actually manually add them. So I'm just going to go through here and kind of show you how to do it. So here's the add deal, right? And so
Mhm.
there'd be, a contact person's name. Um, let's just say, Jack Black is the contact person, and then I'll go back in and change this. But there's a person I met the other day when I was in San Francisco, and they were at the San Francisco Cheese and Wine Shop in Hayes Valley. And so I would go through here, San Diego Cheese and Wine, add the organization, it saves that. And then, if there's some sort of conversation about, how much cheese they want to buy or whatever product it is, we add that value in there like that. Pretty
Okay.
self-explanatory. And then we say, based upon the conversation, when we think that deal might actually close. So what that allows us to do then, once it closes, we can count that as revenue, right? And when you come
Uh-huh.
back in here, this is the pipeline view. So now we have it in here, and you can drag and drop it into each one of these phases. But a different view of this timeline is actually when we're projecting to close. So you can see I just added that one deal, and we're
Uh-huh.
projecting it to close in March, so that when we talk to Tony or we do our S&OP meetings, we can come in and say, okay, I'm expecting this deal to close in March, and we can expect, this revenue or this contract size to come in. Now, that's just sales, right? Cash flow is a whole different other story. Maybe it's, they're committing to purchase, X amount of product per month. But if it's a contract size, and this is where, you have to educate me on, because I'm so new to the organization, I don't know, what even our contracts look like, or, how they're structured. So Jillian and Rich are going to need to tell me what that process looks like. But this is a real simple view based on that close date of looking at how you can project revenue into the future.
Okay.
Yeah. So any questions so far? Sarah, you still there?
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, pretty easy so
Yep.
far. Yep, cool. Okay, so then what you do here, which is nice, so you can see we have these two deals, right? And let's just say I've called them, so we've made contact made already, right? And what's nice here is you can schedule activities. So if there's no scheduled activities for this deal, it shows up in a yellow sign right there, and you want to go in and schedule an activity. So whatever your activity is, it's always prompting you to schedule something next, whatever that follow activity is. So you can log in on any given day and say, okay, I got, this call. Let's just mark this one as today. I need to call them today on 2/14. And so when I schedule it for today, it shows up in green, so I know that activity is due today. But let's say I want to schedule that activity into the future. We'll click here, the 28th. We need to follow up with a call. So we do that. Let's see. My computer's acting a little bit weird. Oh, this pop-up showing. Hang on one sec. Okay. Activity goals. Yeah, so you can even add activity goals. So if you want to have you can set it up to say, okay, I want to make 10 calls a day to new vendors or new distributors or new cheese shops. You can set that, and it'll kind of track how many activities you're doing in each day, because that's really what sales is all about, is organizing your activities and driving that activity metric to have a high activity, but not necessarily like high activity. It's really about like targeted activity. So I used to work in cold calling, right? And I was an inside sales guy, and we had like 60 calls a day that we had to hit. And a lot of times, to be honest with you, that was just busy work, because a lot of times targeted emails to actual executives within the company was much more successful. So what we used to do is just like bang out our calls to like random people and then go back and email, right? And had the executives been more open to accepting the feedback of what worked and what didn't, they would have limited our calls to a little bit more and actually tracked how many emails we sent instead of how many calls we made. So there's all sorts of things you can do in here. So it's really nice. So it either shows up as gray as an activity in the future, green today, or yellow if you don't have any activity in there, right? So that's pretty much it. So you kind of work the deal along, and again, we can customize these, and there's different fields that you can have. And then also what's nice is there's an application on the phone. So let's say like make a new contact out in the field, kind of what we were talking about on the sales call the other day, and somebody wants to add the contact right away. They can add it in their phone and schedule an activity for them to follow up. And then that comes into actually this contacts field here. So then what's nice about this is, believe it or not, it actually syncs with in the back end here with MailChimp. There's a connection that you can have in here where, let's see, integration should be the one that it connects with. So, here we go, apps and integrations. So you can come in here, go to the marketplace, and I know MailChimp, because I've done this before, is a standard one. So what we can do is actually import the lists that we already have from MailChimp into here, so that if you have any activities on those specific accounts or contacts, we can actually track those activities against that contact, so we can know who we're reaching out to and what our activity is based upon which account. So that's nice. But then any contacts moving forward, instead of like just clicking that link and figuring out, we can actually add them to Pipedrive, get them in the pipeline, and then on a regular schedule, what we can do is come back, and so here we go. Here's the MailChimp integration. So you can actually sync up the lists. So you can connect it, and on a regular schedule, go back and on a monthly basis sync up MailChimp and Pipedrive, which is nice, because if the sales folks are out there and they're meeting people and they're entering these contacts, then those lists will be automatically synced when you go back and connect.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we can run that by the team and see if that makes sense, figure out what the easiest route is. But if we are going to really start using this CRM heavily, which I think, we want to do, and Joe wants to do, and Tony wants to do, to start tracking sales and figuring out, how we're projecting business, then this could be a really great tool. And then I think just the last thing I'll show you in the meantime, here's the activities that you schedule. So if you just want to see a whole list of the activities that you need to do for that day, this is that. And you can, select them done. You can see what type it is, who it is, their email, number, when it's due. but then you can also connect it to your email. So what's nice about this and connecting it to your email is that when you have a specific email to a specific contact that's already synced in Pipedrive, it'll automatically track that email in Outlook and send that a draft of that email, whatever your communication was, and log it as an activity that has been done against that contact or against that deal here in Pipedrive. So Joe can go to like, Whole Foods, Georgia or whatever, and be like, hey, what's the activity been, on this account in the last how many days? And you can go in and drill down and be like, oh, okay, Rich or Jillian or Sarah has emailed them, 3 or 4 times in the past week. So I know there's been some activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. And I think as we go here, we're gonna want to figure out what our sales process is and talk together as a team about how this works. And there's a couple more, so here you can kind of customize here, and then also the nice thing too is you can come in here and you can see, so you can set probabilities for this. So we'll just turn this on and say, okay, deal probability on. And what that allows you to do is say, okay, so out of all the deals that show up in our lead stage, we close about, let's just say, any deals that come into our funnel, we close about 20% of those deals, right? So boom, 20%. And then obviously as we work a deal through the system, it gets more and more highly probable that we're actually going to deliver, or that we're actually going to close that business. So then you come into here, okay, maybe this is 40, and it'll probably just be a guess at the start, but eventually we'll start to run some metrics on this and figure out how many deals are actually closing per stage. So, it slowly starts to climb, and soon we figure out, of all the proposals that we make or contracts we send out, or whatever it is, calls we make, we close 80% of those. So based upon the amount of revenue that we're projecting in each stage, you can actually come back here to the pipeline and it'll weight that on a percentage basis. So you can come back here and see, so of these deals that we have, here in, or excuse me, so actually it'll show it up here. So you can see now we have, so let's see, so there's this deal's 4,000, and let's just put this deal at 10,000. And this is someone that Joe and I got connected to the other day that does some whey protein isolate stuff. So there's 10,000 there, right? And then there's 4,000 here, right? So it's taking this 4,000, and because I weighted it at 80, it's taking that at 3,000. And because I put this one at 20%, it's taking that at 200, I guess, it should be higher. I think it should be. Anyways, what it's doing is it's adding those two weighted percentages together. So you can see, actually I might have to oh, that's why, because maybe this one doesn't have a close date. Let's see. Yeah, so see, because it doesn't have a close date, it actually didn't allow me to project it. So set expected close date. So let's just put that in the future. So the probability, it should already have that pre-programmed in there. So coming back now, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, so 2,000. Yeah, see, 20% of 10,000 is the probability on this deal. So anyways, it gives you a weighted number of what you're projecting for any given time period. So of all the deals in our pipeline, we have 4,000 total, but it should be 10. But we have 4,000 total, but we're projecting only 3,200 of that because we weight the pipeline based on metrics of what stage it's in. Does that make sense? Okay. Cool. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the general rundown. And there's all sorts of reports that you can run, and there's, a dashboard. But this is really, just the general setup. And so I'm going to talk to Joe and see like when we're actually going to roll this out to the team. But, I think in the meantime, come in. I invited you, and I think I created you as a user profile. So now you can log in. The password's Rumiano Cheese, and the username should be your email. So you can kind of come up in here, and then I think what would be good to do, and I'll just confirm with Joe before we actually move forward, but I think the next step would be to start getting some of the contacts in here and then just start playing around with it and use it. And if you're working on a specific deal or you and Jillian are working on something, let's define our sales process first, figure out
Okay.
what we're going to do from stages. I like to keep it simple. I think 5 is good. Getting too complex can get a little bit gnarly. Um, so let's keep it maybe simple, and then we'll do like a general weighting, and that'll probably be the sales team and Joe. And
Okay.
I've already started adding some deals in here from just conversations I've been involved in with our branding company and things. But I think the
Uh-huh.
goal would be to have everyone updated on this, and then post Expo, we're bringing in new contacts from Expo, we're doing new deals, and hopefully we'll have like 20 new leads in from Expo. Oh, and then the other thing that you can do, which is really nice, is you can set up a custom deal in here for the organization. So you can say, um, like on the organization, like where did they come in from? So like what channel, what marketing channel did they come in from? So was it social? Was it expo? Was it this, that, right? And then we can run
Okay.
reports on where those leads came in from, and what marketing channels are more effective for providing us business. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, which is really great, right? Because we want to know, like, okay, what marketing channels driving most of our business, and is it referrals? Is it just direct sales? Is it social? What is it? And I'm sure you already know kind of generally what it is, but it'd be good to just have some verifiable data and revenues, and usually you check on this on like a monthly basis and then a quarterly, and we'll set goals for. We already have goals, right, for sales for the year, but we'll have quarterly numbers and just see how we're tracking against those. So
Okay.
cool. Well, that's pretty much it. If do you have any other questions?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, at least for me it is.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the
Cool.
idea. Is it's pretty simple, and you want it to be easy to use, and you want it to also be mobile. So I found it super easy. I don't like complicated software, and I don't think that's really the culture of our company. We want simple, effective tools. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I'll talk with Joe and just confirm that we want to start moving in this direction, and then we'll get back in contact. But at least we've done this first demo, and you can start jumping in and playing around with it, and maybe trying to add a deal, and maybe start talking
Yeah.
to Jillian about what the sales cycle might look like, and then we can have a more formal meeting about actually forming it up and coming up with a strategy of exactly how we want to use it.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
great,
Great.
Tanner. Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, and it's good to check in with you, and enjoy the rest of the rain.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
All right. Well, I probably won't be up for a few weeks. I'm gonna work with our branding firm down here in Solana for probably a couple weeks, but hopefully more towards the end of the month, I might be back up at the office for a few days. So I'll
Cool.
keep.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, have a great week and nice weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.